Hello and welcome back. Today we are talking about Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. It's a famous book from 1925. In this video, I'll explain what happens in the story and break down the important parts of the novel. We'll walk through the summary so the plot becomes clear, then explore the main themes and ideas that make this novel so powerful. We'll also look at Virginia Woolf's writing techniques. Along the way, I'll talk about Woolf's personal connection to the story and why this novel still matters today. By the end, you will understand not just what Mrs. Dalloway is about, but why it's considered one of the most important books of modern literature. Published in 1925, Mrs. Dalloway is a landmark of modernist literature by Virginia Woolf. Set in post-World War I London, it unfolds a single day following upper-class Clarissa Dalloway as she prepares for a party. The novel is famous for its stream of consciousness technique, diving into the character's inner thoughts and memories. Woolf explores the profound impact of the war, contrasting Clarissa's world with Septimus Smith, a shell-shocked veteran. The story critiques the rigid British social structure and examines themes of mental illness, existential despair, and the constraints of time and societal rules, reflecting the fragmented consciousness of the modern era. Let's go through the summary of Mrs. Dalloway, focusing on the key events and characters. So the entire story of Mrs. Dalloway takes place in just one day, morning to night, and we follow Clarissa Dalloway, this upper class woman in London who's getting ready to host a big party in the evening. The day starts with Clarissa stepping out to buy flowers. She is walking through the city, thinking about life, memories, choices. All those quiet thoughts we never say out loud. And then, suddenly, when she returns home, someone from her past shows up, Peter Walsh. He was her old friend and actually once proposed her. But Clarissa turned him down years ago, and honestly, he still hasn't gotten over it. Their conversation is polite but heavy. You can feel all the unspoken feelings and judgments between them. At one point, Peter even asks Clarissa if she is truly happy with her husband, Richard. Before Clarissa can answer, her daughter Elizabeth walks in and breaks the tension. Peter leaves, but he cannot stop thinking about her refusal from years ago. It still stings him deeply. From here, the novel shifts away from Clarissa and introduces us to Septimus Warren Smith, a World War I veteran struggling with severe trauma. What we would now call PTSD. Septimus is with his wife Regnant Park, waiting to see the famous psychiatrist Sir William Bradshaw. Before the war, Septimus loved poetry, loved Shakespeare. He was idealistic and sensitive. But the war completely destroyed him inside. When his friend Evans died, Septimus felt nothing, and that numbness haunts him. He feels guilty for surviving, guilty for feeling empty, and he believes there's nothing in post-war England worth living for anymore. When the doctor finally sees him, instead of helping, he dismisses Septimus's trauma and basically decides to send him away to a mental institution, cutting him off from his wife. Septimus is terrified of losing himself, and in a moment of panic and despair, he jumps out of a window and ends his life. It's one of the most tragic moments in the novel. Meanwhile, Clarissa's husband Richard is having lunch with some wealthy friends. After lunch, he comes home holding a bunch of roses for Clarissa. He wants to tell her he loves her, but he just can't say it. It's been too long and the words don't come. That small moment captures the quiet distance in their marriage. They care for each other, but there's this emotional gap neither crosses. Clarissa later watches her daughter leave with Miss Kilman, Elizabeth's intense and very religious tutor. Clarissa and Miss Kilman absolutely cannot stand each other. Both feel that the other is trying to control Elizabeth. As all this is happening, Septimus and his wife have one brief happy moment together before the doctor returns. And that's when Septimus takes his final step out of fear and desperation. Peter hears the ambulance rushing by and shakes his head at what he likes to call civilized London, unaware of what just happened. Night falls, and it's finally time for Clarissa's big party. Important guests arrive, including Peter and Sally Seton, Clarissa's wild, passionate friend from youth. Everyone looks successful on the outside, but inside they are all dealing with disappointment, lost dreams, and the weight of time. Then the news comes: a young man, Septimus, has killed himself. Clarissa quietly leaves the crowd and goes to a small room to process it. And in that moment, she feels a strange connection to him. She realizes he chose death to protect his soul and almost feels guilty, as if her comfortable social life makes her complicit in the kind of society that failed him. The party winds down. Clarissa re-enters the room calmly, and Peter sees her again. And even after everything, her presence fills him with emotion, with that old familiar excitement. That's where the day and the story ends. Let's talk about the characters. In Mrs. Dalloway, each character carries their own inner world, their memories, and their quiet battles. Clarissa Dalloway appears graceful, elegant, and perfectly composed on the surface. The ideal hostess who brings people together. But inside, she often feels lonely and questions whether her life has real meaning. She chooses comfort and stability over passion and sometimes wonders what might have happened if she had taken a different path. Then we have Septimus Warren Smith, a gentle and poetic soul who was shattered by the war. He used to dream, write, and love deeply, but trauma has left him lost and unable to fit back into the world. Society treats his suffering like a nuance, and instead of understanding him, they try to silence him. His story is tragic, and he stands as a painful reminder of the human cost of war and emotional neglect. Peter Walsh is emotional, passionate, and constantly pulled backward into his memories. He never truly moved on from Clarissa's refusal years ago, and even in the present, he is torn between love, regret, and restless ambition. He represents how the past continues to shape us long after moments have passed. Sally Saturn brings the spirit of rebellious youth, bold, free, full of energy in Clarissa's memories. But life changes people. The wild dreamer of the past has grown into a respectable wife and mother. Her journey shows how time softens passion but never completely erases it. And finally, Richard Dalloway, calm, loyal, and stable, he genuinely loves Clarissa even though he struggles to express his feelings. He represents duty, tradition, and the quiet restraint of English society. He is a good man, but sometimes goodness comes with emotional distance. Together, these characters show us that even calm, ordinary lives hold hidden storms, unspoken dreams, and deep longing. They remind us that everyone carries a private world behind the face they show to society. Let's talk about the main themes. In Mrs. Dalloway, Virginia Woolf explores several powerful themes that reveal the inner world of the characters and the society they live in. One major theme is mental illness and how society responds to it. Through Septimus Smith, a war veteran suffering from severe trauma, Woolf shows the deep internal pain of psychological suffering and criticizes a society that fails to understand or support those who struggle, reflecting even her own experiences with mental health. The novel also focuses on the passage of time. Characters are constantly remembering their younger days, and the steady chiming of Big Ben reminds us that life keeps moving forward, forcing us to think about how to find meaning before time runs out. Woolf also critiques the strict British class system and the limited roles available to women, showing how social expectations can confine people. Whether it's Clarissa in her role as a hostess or women stuck in traditional domestic spaces. Throughout the story, we see a contrast between isolation and the longing for connection. Even in a busy city filled with people, characters often feel lonely, and Clarissa's party becomes her way of trying to bring people together, even if that connection is fragile. Beneath all this is a deep sense of existential questioning. Characters quietly wonder about the purpose of life, the meaning of their choices, and the reality of their emotions in a world forever changed by war. Now let's look at the major literary techniques Virginia Woolf uses in the novel. The most important one is stream of consciousness, where instead of simply describing events, Woolf takes us directly inside the character's mind. We move through their thoughts, memories, and emotions just as natural and unpredictable as we do in real life. Along with this, she uses free indirect discourse, which blends the narrator's voice with the character's thoughts. So instead of saying Clarissa thought the morning was lovely, Woolf simply writes how lovely the morning is, letting us see the world through the character's eyes without explaining. The novel also has a fragmented narration, jumping smoothly between different characters and time periods, often triggered by simple things like a passing car or sound in the street. This reflects how human consciousness works, connected yet fragmented. Woolf also relies on symbolism to deepen meaning. Big Ben represents the relentless passage of time. The party symbolizes Clarissa's attempt to create connection and meaning, and the car and airplane serves as modern symbols linking strangers in the city. Finally, she contrasts psychological time with clock time, showing how a single moment can hold a lifetime of memories, making one ordinary day feel emotionally rich and expensive. Now let's understand Woolf's personal connection to the novel. Virginia Woolf's own life struggles deeply shape Mrs. Dalloway. Woolf battled severe mental illness, including depression and anxiety, and lived during a time when psychological conditions were poorly understood and often treated harshly. This personal history allows her to portray internal suffering with sensitivity and truth. Through Septimus Warren Smith, a World War I veteran haunted by trauma, Woolf exposes the cruelty and ignorance of the medical system, which focuses on control rather than compassion. Septimus is not seen as a suffering human being, but as a problem to be managed, reflecting Woolf's own experiences with doctors who failed to understand her emotional world. On the other hand, Clarissa Dalloway represents the quiet inner battles of those who appear composed. Behind her graceful social life lies unspoken doubts, loneliness, and memories that surface unexpectedly. By connecting Clarissa's social mask with Septimus' visible pain, Woolf shows that emotional struggle exists in both silent, hidden forms and intense, overwhelming ones. Mrs. Dalloway is an important novel because it changed the way writers tell stories. Instead of focusing only on big events, Virginia Woolf takes us inside people's mind, their thoughts, memories, and quiet feelings. Let us understand why this matters. The book helps us see life in England after World War I and shows how society, class, and gender shaped people's life. It also brings forward early feminist ideas, showing the limits placed on women and how they searched for identity, freedom, and meaning. Through this modernist style, Woolf proves that even ordinary moments can be full of emotion, depth, and significance. Now let us come to the conclusion. In just one single day in London, Woolf gives us a powerful picture of life, happiness and sadness, love and fear, memory and loss, and even death. She shows us that every life, no matter how simple, holds deep meaning. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment which book you want next. Until then, keep reading, keep thinking, and always look for the extraordinary hidden inside ordinary life.